Well, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, wherever you are on the planet right now. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and you're watching, listening to, recording, whatever, the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And we are streaming live right now on E360 TV, also streaming live on our Facebook page, Self Worth, the Missing Link Superstars. I have one with me here, and our YouTube channel, Laurie Davis Show Host. We're expecting a couple of people to join us today, but our very first guest today, Dr. Verlaine Crawford. Thank you for being here. And we're going to be very self-serving the next 2 days because on the show, because I'm always featuring other people and talking about other people and what they're doing. So I thought, why don't we do a show about what we're doing? And so I have tomorrow we have a full house. I think we have 8 or 9 of our speakers coming. So what I wanted to do was introduce you to some of the speakers who are going to be participating in our conference called the Recovery Summit. So, Dr. Verlaine, thank you so much for accepting the invitations.
Am I thrilled to be here?
Yeah, we're going to have some fun together as we're talking about recovery. So, why don't we just get started for you to do like a little brief intro and what you're going to be talking about, and then we can banter back and forth from there. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, the recovery concept, I think, is so important because we go through many different experiences in our lives that are, some of them seem minimal, some of them seem huge. And a huge one for me, which is what I'll be talking about in the summit, is that I was stabbed in a parking garage. And I didn't know the assailant. He was dressed in a guard uniform, and it was my intuition when I passed this person. He was dressed in a guard uniform. When I passed it, the intuition was to run. And I heard it like a voice, like a big speaker saying, run. And I argued. And so I hope out of all of the things that I ever say, the one thing that you'll get for sure is when your intuition is that inner knowing. I believe it is connected to our guardian angels. They can see everything. They can see past and future, immediate past, immediate future. Everything else is a probability from my understanding. And so that intuition, when it comes through, you have to obey it. And I use that word meaningfully. Arguing is the mind. As the people ask, well, which one is the intuition? What is that thought? And it's the first thought. Everything else after that is the mind coming in from past experience. Why it's late? I don't feel like running. Why should I run? Right? Well, before I could get to the door, there was a knife. He had his arm around my neck tightly and a knife at my throat. And he ended up stabbing me in the back, which I'll get into more in the summit, into the particulars of that. But I was saved. And I believe my guardian angels helped save me because there were 2 men who were in an elevator that was going up in the building. It was a 20-story building on Miracle Mile in Los Angeles. Very nice area. Last thing you'd expect to happen in this very beautiful building. And they were going back up. There were 2 lawyers. They were going back to the office to work. And this one man, I interviewed him later, and he said that he actually felt like somebody was pushing him to go get in the other elevator, go to the elevator. Yeah, wow. It was a miracle, actually a miracle. And they ended up coming down, the bell ringing, when we were standing in front of that elevator as he was pushing me across the room to go out another door. And God knows what would have happened. I don't know if they had a car waiting. That's why he was going to the other door. I don't know what was going on after that. Thank God I don't know. But he did stab me in the back, and my lung collapsed as I got in the elevator. So the point of all this is not so much to go through the gruesome details, but to understand how you get over something like that, And it wasn't overnight. I can guarantee you that, because what it did was made me incredibly scared. I was in fear all the time. there was a TV show I had seen once where someone went right hand fear, left hand fear, total fear. And that was me.
Right.
And my partner, John, got me a gun. I had a gun in my purse. We took me to training. And I have to tell you, that didn't make me feel safer. It made me feel even more scared. So I'd walk along. If someone was walking behind me, I'd get against a building and let them go by, and it was very very upsetting. So I did try to go back to work. I wore a black wig and didn't park under the building and looking for this guy. And one day the police called and said, we think he's in the building, and he's in the lobby. And the lobby was huge. It was like an airport, huge lobby. And I said, well, will you be there? The police, and they said, no, we won't be there. And I said, well, what if he tries to attack me again? And he says, well, they do that sometimes.
Oh, gee.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
I went with my few friends, and we went walking. I didn't find him. And so the bottom line of that is, okay, a few months later, about this happened in August, and in March of the following year, I'm working this ad agency, and so I have to be able to concentrate and write. I'm the chief copywriter, and it was very difficult. And then the police came in the building and said, everybody out in the building, out of the building. And I
Oh,
said, why? And they said, bomb threat, 15th floor. And that was our floor.
oh my
So I
gosh.
went home to John and I said, I'm leaving Los Angeles. I'm going to go back home to Carmel, which is where I grew up in the high school years. And I said, I can't take anymore. I feel like I'm living in a war zone, and it just isn't going to work. And so I did. And he then followed me and came and lived with me there, and was really quite wonderful. And then but I'm still scared. I have a gun next to my bed. It's like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? And I can't watch TV shows that are scary because my hands start sweating. So anybody who's had PTSD understands.
Yes.
And so I went to a psychologist, and he was very helpful. But the key thing that changed my life is I went to a workshop, a neurolinguistics workshop, and a small part of a 3-day weekend was when he did an integration technique. And he said, any volunteers? And I'm like, yeah, give me a chance. And so I went up, and he helped me through an integration on the stabbing. And it was phenomenal, because what is involved, and I'll certainly get into more of it if we have time in the well, even time today, or in the summit, is that you ask that part of you that created the event, whatever it is, the relationship, the event, whatever, what is it doing for you? What did it do for you? And at first you think, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Let's say you're sick with cancer. What is it doing for you? Are you kidding? Nothing, And so I'm thinking and thinking. He said, well, just think about it. What did it do for you? And John had left for San Francisco. He'd gotten a job up there, and this is before the stabbing. And what happened is he came back. He came back and was with me. Okay. What happened? It changed my whole life. I ended up back in Carmel. All those things happened that were beneficial at the end of the day, right? So look at that closely. If you're going through something right now, look at what is it doing for you. And then you don't want it to do that for you. You'd rather do it another way. And the whole point then is, if there were a way you could make changes in your life, and you didn't have to have an accident, you didn't have to have an illness, you didn't have to have a divorce, if there were a way that you could make your life better and those negative things didn't have to happen, would you be willing to change your behavior? Who are you talking to when you say that? I believe we're talking to subpersonalities, the parts of us that have beliefs and ideas about how to make your life better, but they don't really work well. They don't really, when you almost die is really a stupid idea, and it's not, I have to say truthfully, it's not as simple as that. But what happens is phenomenal when you then see the advantages of not having it happen, the advantages of it happen, and you bring them together. The Power of Wholeness, that's the name of the book I've written recently, is so incredible because what you then have is your full power. And you ask those parts to go to the creative part of you to come up with ways that you can live a more balanced life, a more even life. You don't have to have all these dramas. Yes, they're the dramas work. They're very powerful. And sometimes drama is exciting, but sometimes it's just not worth it. And so there's ways to learn and there's ways to live that don't involve that. So what it did is put me very directly. I'd been on a spiritual path, but it put me on a very spiritual path, and through as a result of that, I have been helping people. And it did help me. The integration technique helped me throughout my career and brought me into a higher understanding of how to contact other dimensions, and it's been cool. And
Great.
yeah, it's been a great life since then. There's been ups and downs since, but the key is for me to have a tool to work with that I can work with my mind. Whoops,
Yes.
turn that off.
Perfect. That sounds
Thank
good.
you.
So it's going to be very fun to listen to your whole story. I'm on the docket as well, and I'm going to talk about how I recovered from COVID-19,
Wow.
not the disease, but my business, because
Mm,
I was in the business and I am in the business of servicing people. So people were my business and are my business. So when COVID hit and no one could come to see me, and I no longer could do any retreat work, which was a main source of my income, um, I was hanging on by a thread.
yeah.
And actually, during COVID, 250 million businesses worldwide went under.
Wow.
So
How many?
250 million businesses worldwide went down during COVID. And I could have been one of those statistics. But like yourself, I already had some very powerful tools in my toolkit to be able to survive that, ride the wave, and then restore my business on the other side. Unfortunately, for many people, they didn't get there. So I recovered my business and myself from not having a business for 2 years.
Wow.
And it came at an incredibly difficult time because my husband is older and we had this big, huge property. But that, when you talk about the other side, I loved our property on the lake, all the trimmings. But if we hadn't sold our property, it would have gone into foreclosure.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, well, this is the time to do this downsize, because 5 acres of grass every week to mow, um, so much work to the property.
Wow.
So when you look at would I be sitting right here with you right now if it had not been for that? No, probably not.
Yeah.
Even though I worked virtually for many years. And if it had not been for my friends in California and the business that I've been able to establish in California, I probably would have starved to death
Yeah.
that year.
Wow.
And I am so grateful to all of you in California.
Wow. Wow.
Starting with, I'm hoping he'll be with us in a few minutes, Fleet Easton. I met Fleet during COVID, and he and I did some work together. I did some work with him, and then that ball got started.
Wow.
So this is why now I have a trip booked. I'm coming. I will be in California from November 7th to the 23rd. So I'm hoping to meet as many of you as possible in person. And yeah, staying with friends, some of the girls that I've met. And so, yeah, it's, there's lots of gifts, but I always knew that it would be okay. There was always that part of me that I knew it would be okay. And I had cancer last year.
Wow.
I could talk about that, but I went yesterday to get some medical insurance for while I'm away. And the insurance agent was travel insurance. We must buy it before we come to the United States in case we have, something happens and we
Sure.
don't want to be extinguished with a medical bill, right? So
Mhm.
anyway, she was going down the medical list, and I was saying, no, no, I don't have that. No, 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 no. And then the came to the cancer. And I said, yes, I had cancer last year. She said, yes, but did you take any treatments? I said, no. Did you take any medication? No. As a matter of fact, I just had a checkup with my doctor, and all the scars, I had a hysterectomy. So all the scars on my tummy, you can't even see them. There were 6 of them. And then inside of my body, there's absolutely no scar tissue to even know that I had surgery,
Wow.
because my little personalities, I knew ahead of time I would be okay. I just needed that area cleaned up and cleaned out at my age. And without that little cancer scare, I might never have had that done. See,
Wow.
I know. So I understand totally, but I'm going to talk about recovering. I have many recovery stories, just like you do. And we're just picking one for this summit. There's going to be more, I'm sure. And
Yes, the pile. There's a pile, you know.
yeah, there's a pile. There's a pile. And we already had some people talking about their ailments. So I'm going to talk from the business side. So that's what I'm going to do. Plus host it and MC. And if one of our speakers runs out of steam, then I know how to inject a question. Um, that won't be a challenge for you, I'm sure. But some of my speakers, that may be because 45 minutes, our speakers are going to be speaking for 45 minutes. And they're going to spend the first 15 minutes telling you what the situation was. So you just heard a little tidbit about Verlaine's. And then the middle part, they're going to talk to you about how they recovered. So whatever techniques they used, how they did it, who they listened to, who mentored them. And then the last 15 minutes, what does your life look like today? So do
Yeah.
you have your book handy anywhere? You might give them a little glimpse of where
Yes,
you are
yes.
today.
I'd love to. This is. I have to learn how to
Yes,
do
there
this.
we go. The power
Power
of
of
wholeness.
Wholeness. And it started out, I was going to just redo um, the uh, first book I ever wrote, which was Ending the Battle Within. And I thought, okay, I'll just redo that so I can do it in digital because the floppy disk had disintegrated, right? And boy, when I got into it, then I rewrote the whole thing basically. And so that's why it's called The Power of Wholeness. Discover a more fulfilling, successful, and rewarding life. And then I just finished and published Endless Shades of the Mystical Rose, a poetic
Nice.
personal journal of life and love. And this was poetry that I started writing when I was going through a divorce. And I was living up on the mountain, and I created a temple room where I went up and I put all my uh, religious symbols up there, the angels and Jesus and Buddha and everybody was up there, right? And
Yes.
I uh, I would go into a meditation, and I had this beautiful journal that with two angels on it, and this starts out with the poetry that I got that came through. The fascinating thing is that they would write. I say they. That I think of it. The angels were writing through me, and they would write and just finish at the end of the page. This is the end. It was like, oh, okay, and
Yeah.
it was so perfectly done. Anyway, I had been wanting to do this for a very long time, and so I finally published it, and I'm getting some beautiful reviews, which is making me feel quite lovely. Oh, and I put all kinds of beautiful photos of roses in that I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, wow. I see your
And
pictures of
as
your flowers on Facebook.
yes, all the flowers I put up in Facebook. I'm sorry, but I cannot go by a rose without taking this picture. So I have like 1,000, I think now, my baby. But anyway, so each poem has its own rose, and
Oh, so why don't you pick one and read it to us?
oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. Oh, well, so that would actually be perfect for the um, releasing the baggage. Releasing the baggage for recovery, right?
Whoa, yes, you should you
And
should
there's
pin. Oh,
there's the roses
lovely.
for that.
Wow, nice.
Letting go is releasing the baggage you've carried, bundled in packages and labeled in fear. Letting go of that which no longer fits you, the clothing and masks that hid who you were. Freedom to fly is granted immediately, no questions are asked, as you move through the doorway and catch a glimpse of the promised tomorrow, which may unravel if you don't live today. For no matter your station in worldly matters, your heart holds the key to celestial realms, where you are the center of focused attention. Great gifts are bestowed, and wisdom is found. Follow us quietly into the light. Unwrap the resistance that made you a prisoner. Let go of the armature and protective veil that stifles your spirit and holds you bound in confusion. Capture the essence of who you can be and move forward in strength beyond the great sea. There is only one love that permeates the universe, only one heart that beats through us all, one consciousness suspended in heavenly grace. Visions of loveliness blossom upon your face. Dance out your emotions as a child romps in the waves of an endless ocean, making love to the shore. Walk briskly with a wild wind in your hair, and be ready to live unburdened if you dare.
Oh, I've got goosebumps, girl. Ooh,
Thank you.
that is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. I
Yeah.
love
So I
poetry.
think one
Mhm.
lady actually said, she called it a masterpiece. And I was like, oh my.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I know people don't usually read poetry, but I think they'll get a lot out of it.
Oh, yes. How many are in there?
37.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And there's all kinds. The other
And how
side of
do,
the wall,
yeah.
follow the laughter, endless patterns, destiny's call. It goes on and on. The California Cafe. There's a few that are like, what makes a place special? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
eh,
Nice.
yeah. And the torrid splendor of divine love. Oh.
Oh, that could be a novel in itself.
Yes, it could.
Each one of those is a book, my girl.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
how do we
Oh.
get your books? How do
It's on
people?
Amazon. I
Okay.
actually did the ebook and for Mystical Rose, I actually did a hardcover. There's
Oh,
paperback, but I did a hardcover because
nice.
with a fine paper so that the flowers would just pop out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you.
I see me adding those to my library. Totally. So, are you in Carmel, California at this time? Is
No,
that where you live now?
and I'm down in the San Gabriel near
Okay.
Pasadena,
Okay.
and it's a it's a nice place. I had moved from Orange County here, which I really like because there's a lot of places to go and down to the beach and everything. But John had a home here, and my condo I was running, the man decided to live in. So we moved here, and he remodeled the house to a great extent. but we'd like to be somewhere else, and we're working on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're covered in beautiful white stuff right now. We
Are
had 2
you
days.
really?
Yes,
Wow.
we had our first snowfall, which was, timely at this time, usually any time after the 1st of October, but we had a beautiful October. It was amazing.
Oh,
Beautiful
nice.
summer-like weather. So we didn't mind when the snow came. That's part of who we are and what we enjoy. So yes, it's winter now, but we're all tucked away, nice and cozy and warm, and we're good.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
I grew up in Iowa until I was
Oh.
15, and so
Mhm.
I totally understand. There are times that I miss that, the especially the autumn and so forth.
Mhm.
It's just lovely.
Mhm. Beautiful. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the summit and why we're doing the summit. And would love your input and feedback as well. But you work with a lot of people I know who are recovering from something, and I'm working with people who are recovering from something, and we're all
Yes.
on this recovery journey. The most extensive work I've done, though, is around the emotional recovery, and it's not therapy or counseling or any of those things, but it's comes from an educational perspective and um, showing people that they have a lot of value, that they're worthy, that they need to love themselves. And the question is, though, how do you do that? And so, not many of us had instruction on that growing up in my area, anyway. I don't remember my mom sitting me down and saying, now, when you're going through a hard time, this is how you still continue to love yourself, all right? Even if you make a big
Oh,
mistake. Nobody's had those conversations. So
no. No.
I came up with the idea because, of course, I've had so many incredible people recover from so many incredible things. And I thought, wow, well, let's get those stories out there in another format other than a book or a show or let's make it an event and make it a 3-day event. It's 3 days. People can come for one speaker. They can come to all speakers for $25. I mean, it's cost effective, but
Yeah.
to hear real people be vulnerable and share their real stories is what I know really connects us to each other.
Yeah.
So if we have people who are not willing to be vulnerable and not willing to share their stories, the disconnect is there for them. I've discovered that. And so the to create a platform where everyday ordinary people can come in, and these are ordinary people who've done some extraordinary things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So every single person that's speaking has, I know them all. And so they have powerful stories because, of course, some of them I've worked with and I know their story. I can't tell their story, but they
No.
need to tell their story. So that's why I want to do it, to let people know that if we did it, they can do it too. And we've all used different modalities, different methods, different systems. It doesn't really matter. It just whatever works for you. So that's the big reason for the summit. And I envision there will be more. Love to do it on a regular basis. Have, invite everybody that's on this summit back to a second summit. If they can't, then we fill in the blanks with others. And so it becomes a community of recovery and letting people know that there's help out there. There are different things out there that people can do. They don't necessarily have to go to, a professional mental health care person or take medication, or, there's lots of other ways to get well mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So that's my gig. And I'm so happy, Dr. Verlaine Crawford, that you're part of it. And thank you for accepting the invitation to be part of it. So, what are your thoughts on the concept of having a regular recovery summit where people can use this platform?
I think it's very, very important. There's the most difficult part of going through an event is being all alone. And then if you don't believe in angels, which I hope you will if you didn't before you hear us talk, you do all have a guardian angel that's with you all the time to guide you and to help you and to take care, to protect you and also to provide opportunities. Um, I think the interesting thing is that many people say, if let's say if someone has hurt you, and they say, well, you have to forgive them. And it's a very, you're going like, really? What, how do I do that?
Mhm.
And that's what I asked. I asked everybody I met and ministers and everything, how do you forgive? And it was very interesting because nobody really had a clear answer. And and you're sitting there and you're going, there's got to be a way. And it was really interesting. I had taken a trip to Florida and I was leaving and in the airport, and here's this book sitting on a rack, How to Forgive. And of course I bought it, right? It's like, "Ugh." And the interesting thing to me, it was very Christian based, which was lovely. I tend to be broader with looking at all religion, but I also believe in Jesus Christ as a savior and helpful, great teacher. And the thing they said was, you have to turn it over to God.
Mhm.
And it's like, what a good idea. I don't have to do it. I just turn it over because it's so big. It's so big. And then the second part of that is to forgive yourself.
Oh,
Because
that's
as if
number
you
one.
if you believe at any level that we create our reality, that our thoughts and our hidden beliefs create our reality, then we have to forgive ourselves or put ourselves in that situation. And so I'm there on the plane reading that. And then I just turned it over. I said, God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know. There's no particular steps that I know of. I'm turning it over. And oh my God, it was like a flood of tears. And this, over the weeks, a couple of weeks ahead, after that, uh, it was like I had a weight over my head, and it was like always there with all these words going on, this and that, and oh my God, it was so awful, and and it just like it's clouds just lifted, it just lifted, and it was beautiful. So whenever I have a situation that is upsetting, I say, and I've gotten pretty much over it, but it's still hanging, right? What does it do? It hangs around you. So this recovery summit, if people can see that, yes, you can go beyond that. You can go beyond the accident. You can go beyond the death of a loved one. You can go beyond all of those things because life is here to be lived
Mhm.
and not to be closed down, like my poem,
Mhm.
to drop the baggage. Um, if you don't mind, I have a little story I could mention also about that in terms of a movie that I saw.
Of course.
Um, yeah, it was called The Mission, and Robert De Niro was in it. And he was a Spanish soldier in the movie that had come to South America. And he had no, he was, of course, raised Catholic and there were priests and everything, but he thought killing off the natives was like if they were in the way and they did something wrong, psh. And all of a sudden he had an epiphany that this was not the right way to live, that killing these people was not a good thing to do.
Mhm.
And so he was going to do what do you call it when you uh, do penance. And so he took all his armor and all his swords and everything and put him roped them all together, and he was dragging them behind him. That was his penance. And they were going, the Indians and he were going up a side of a waterfall, up a cliff. And he was trying to drag this, and it kept getting stuck. And it kept by rocks or whatever, right? And it's like pulling him back. He's almost falling down. And if you can imagine in your own life, if you're watching this and you've gone through something difficult and you're trying to drag all this baggage, it gets stuck as you try to go up into a higher level, a higher frequency. You get stuck. And so he gets to the top of the cliff. He's climbing. His hands are above the cliff, and he looks up, and there's the chief above him with a giant sword. And he thought, okay, this is it. And what the man did was cut the baggage. He cut the rope, and it went banging down the hill, and then pulled him up on top
Yeah.
of the cliff.
Wow.
So that's what forgiveness will do for you. That's what coming to the Recovery Summit will do. If you know anyone that's going through something that there's so much to go through, have them come,
Yeah.
because it's totally going to be worth their time to hear these stories of survival, but also not just survival, but of thriving again in
Oh,
your
yes.
life.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
I mean, for me, it's like I was invited to go to Japan, Hong Kong, Australia, over to teach. I mean, I could not have imagined the life, because that stabbing took place when I was 27.
Wow.
And that life disappeared is it was just incredible. I've had such an amazing life. And so I think, that's what I encourage others to just say, I'm not going to be held back by the past. They're just stories. Guess what? They're
Yeah.
no longer alive.
That's
They're
right.
stories.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly right. Yes, I have so many I could do for sure. But I'd like to speak on the forgiveness on how that is so liberating. And when you
Absolutely.
can forgive yourself first, so I take people through steps to do that. But the
Yeah.
power that comes out of that is the following. I always say to my clients, how people are always ready and willing to remind you of your past and the mistakes you've made. So your
Mhm.
Auntie Sarah, your mom, your sister, your husband, your boyfriend, you know, do you remember when you did that? Do you remember when you did that? And this is, I think, a big part of why people can't recover emotionally from anything, because there's always these people, well-intentioned do-gooders, trying to keep us pinned down. So at the end of their process, they have let go, they have done that. I said, now here's the kicker. The next time that Auntie Sarah says, Billy, do you remember when you got drunk with your friends and you crashed your dad's car? Do you remember that? That's the wild kid you were. And Billy can say, you're right, Auntie, but I have already forgiven myself for that.
Wow.
And that stops that continuous bullying of the constant reminder of where people want to keep us. And that stops them dead in their tracks. And then I go, and this is a tool that they walk away with. And then I say, now if Auntie is continuing the rant and says, oh yeah, sure, you've forgiven yourself, but blah, 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 then this is your response. You repeat that. I'm sorry, Auntie, but yes, I have already forgiven myself for that. But it sounds to me like maybe you haven't forgiven me for that.
Mhm. Mhm.
See? So it's through communication. And once we embrace, a new belief system around that, especially forgiveness, it's a big one, then
It
that
really
frees
is.
you up. It frees you up to be who you really need to be without worrying about anymore that somebody found out something or you made a mistake and you're hoping nobody knows about it and it's like a big secret, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I also add to that I truly believe that every person outside of yourself is a part of you that's shown up to say or do the things that you are thinking inside of yourself that you may not want to pay attention to.
right.
And so if someone's bringing something back up again, it means that there's a part of you still in there that needs to hear it again, and or wants you to hear it again. And so the key at that point is to really look at that and look at that person as your answer is so perfect is yes, and I've forgiven myself for that. And what a powerful thing to say. And you're saying it to that subpersonality who hasn't forgiven you, obviously, or it wouldn't keep coming up.
That's right. That's right.
These subpersonalities are so fascinating. I think I see them off in their own little room, and they collect everything they can for their
Yeah.
belief, you know, and
Yeah.
and they and then they could say, if I was talking to myself and that was me that had the accident and just demolished the car and all that, and I would talk to that part of me. I say, well, that was great. You had my aunt say that again. What is your story? Why do you keep telling me about this? Over and over again. He said, well, I'm trying to keep you safe. Oh, how nice of you to keep me safe. How about if you just join the group, you come into all the other and work with all the other subpersonalities, and you don't have to keep reminding me of it. I have got it really clear in my mind. I
Yeah.
knew that happened, right? I'm not forgetting it. You don't have to keep reminding me. You're going to keep me safe by making sure that I'm sober when I'm driving, and we're going to work together.
Yeah.
And so I see that with everything. I had one lady was saying the other day, this person came up to me and said, "You've gained a lot of weight. Wow, what have you been eating?" And the person who heard that got upset and felt that that was really rude for them to say that. And you don't need to say that. Well, guess what? That person's saying what's inside of you.
Yeah. You already know that.
Yeah, you're that part of you shows up like an actor, and there they are. How nice of you to show up outside of me. So
Yes.
they make it really obvious.
Yeah.
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 So it's then you go off by yourself and you talk to that part and say, look, I know I've gained a lot of weight, obviously. So why don't you help me monitor my food a little better? Help me feel good by not eating so much. And, we'll lose some weight together. You see what
Right.
happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's so beautiful for sure. But yeah, and people need ways to be able, like techniques, like you just shared. I have some, you have some together. It's like fire and oil. I think we're talking the same language. We just do it differently
Yeah.
and get the same outcomes,
Yeah.
have the same outcomes. So definitely for sure. And so I'm all in on this. And
Mhm.
somebody said, well, what if we don't have any people come? I said, that's not important. What's important is we're doing it.
Yeah.
And you have to build the field first, and they will come. So when we have, the aftermath of how many of our speakers will be benefiting by
Mhm.
themselves, just our 21 speakers, we have 21 people at the summit already. We are all going to benefit.
That's right. Everyone's going to learn
It's
from
a
each other.
win, 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 win.
Exactly.
Oh, and we should mention that we're giving some things away because some
Oh,
people
yeah.
love that, right? And your gift is going to be
Probably the power of wholeness.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And we have authors, we have athletes coming in, we have some celebrities. Um, you don't really know who people are until you meet them or where they've been or what they know. It's just amazing. We have
Oh.
we have former Grand Chief Leonard standing on the road. He's going to be
Mm.
speaking, one of our
Um,
First Nations chiefs. And we have a former NHL hockey player speaking.
oh my.
And yeah, Doug Smith. We have Dr. Verlaine Crawford, author
Yay.
and poet and speaker and integration person, I call you. Um, we have Owen Pelchier. Owen was a client of mine, but he's someone that was brought up in the foster care system and then ended up in jail and then ended up living in with a gang.
Oh
And
my.
how he survived that, how he got out of that lifestyle and is now has a family, is getting his degree in social work. He works at an organization that helps other people get out of the gang life. I mean, an amazing guy. And I'm speaking on behalf of some of our speakers who are unable to come in today or tomorrow. Um, we have Keith Denoncourt. Keith Denoncourt is a world-class guide. He can take you to the far corners of wherever, especially here in Canada, and guide you through. He's a retired school teacher. And about 6 months after he retired, he had an accident. He fell off his horse and was injured severely from that. But he also, during his whole career as a teacher, was a emergency response first responder.
Wow.
And so if there was a fire or an accident or whatever, he was there as one of the first responders. So he's going to talk about PTSD and all of those things that come with that.
Yeah.
And let's see, we have Kathy Fillion. Kathy Fillion lost her firstborn baby at childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And just 2 years ago lost a son to cancer, a rare form of cancer. He was only 22.
Oh,
and she has a daughter left. So she's going to talk about that, because moving on from losing children is huge, right? Let's see, who else do we have coming? Oh, yes, my good friend, Ramin Modiri, my financial guru friend. And he's going to talk about how he came from war-torn Iran at 16 to the United States of America and had no country to go home to, a man without a country, surviving that. And he has every financial credential that you can get in the United States of America, including 2 MBA degrees.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Like, we've got phenomenal people going to speak. And then, of course, we have Dr. Laurie Davis. And Dr. Laurie Davis could talk about so much. But everybody else is doing the personal stuff, but I thought, well, I'll do a little bit on the business side this trip. But, you know, I was in jail for 60 days for a crime that never existed. I survived that.
Oh, my God.
That's a story. My first husband, the love of my life, died by suicide, attempted suicide, and then 2 years in a mental institution, came out and disappeared. He's been on a missing persons list since 1986.
God.
Yeah, I could talk about that. Then 5 years later, I was all alone. I was 38, and I was thinking, am I going to be spending the rest of my life by myself? And I met this beautiful, handsome guy in a bar. And I married him. And it lasted for 18 months when I found out that he liked his mom better than he liked me. So I've been with Ron for 32 years. I wasn't able to have any children. That was my heartbreak. And because I love kids.
Me
and
too.
I got through that, you know? So, yeah. I mean, we have, and last year when I had the cancer, I went, what?
Oh,
okay. I guess I must need the hospital experience. Do I? Because I've been so healthy. I've never been sick, and I hadn't been in the hospital in 30 years. I thought, okay, I'm to experience the medical care system here for some reason. And that's what I did when I was in jail too. I don't know, you know, that's another story, but I figured, okay, I'm here for something bigger. And I learned a lot about the justice system. Wow. And how it's so corrupt and it doesn't work. Wow. We're writing a book about that, actually. Abuse of Power. The name of the book is Abuse of Power. Yes. And so, yeah, and that was 25 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. So,
yeah, well, I'll just add a few of mine for you, too.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please. We have about...
When I was 12, I was ready to go to camp the next day, and Dad said, well, let's just mow the grass. We were in Iowa. And so I had a medium-sized mower. My brother had the big mower that was automatic, and he was younger than me. And Dad had a mower. And I'm going up a culvert with mine, and I turned around, and I stepped into the mower my brother had. Yeah. And I cut off my little toe and the top of my left foot. It was very traumatic. And
no kidding.
Yeah. And so I was in the hospital 5 weeks the first time, 3 weeks the second time for skin grafting and so forth. At 12, you know, and it was, But you know what you could say again, like, okay, I'm here for the hospital experience. I wasn't advanced enough at that time to put it
No,
that way,
no, no.
but but I did get in my wheelchair and go try to entertain the other children that were in that ward,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a very introspective time. You know, I did my
Oh yeah.
schoolwork there and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then another major shift for me then was I hadn't gotten actually married until I was 52. And I married a psychiatrist, a wonderful doctor. And this is, I had been with John for 20 years. He left to go to Europe, which was difficult for me, but the love for him just never left. It ever, you know, it just was there. And anyway, I ended up marrying Tom, and then he ran off with another woman.
Yeah.
And it was it was really devastating because he was very spiritual. He appreciated all the teachings that I was doing, and it was shocking, you know, to
Yeah.
be
Plus,
betrayed.
you're beautiful
Oh, thank you.
on top of it. Like,
I
what's not to
appreciate
like?
that.
What's not to like here? You know?
Yeah, yeah, really. I kind of thought that way actually.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So we're having
And
like that.
it's like it's and then I actually saw a movie where this beautiful woman, her husband had gone off to be with this very unattractive secretary, and it you know it helped, but but again that forgiveness thing was just the most
Mhm.
important aspect of letting go. And of course I'm thinking, oh God, but my head was like a bowling alley. I thought, you know, I'm so noisy.
Yeah.
And I think
Exactly.
some people can relate to that because it's like you just,
Definitely.
you know, he said, she said, they did, what did they do? You know, it's just
Mhm.
unbelievable. But
Mhm.
again, this really looking at what is best for you in your life every day, and really first thing people talk about, you know, and it was said to me by a psychologist is, you don't have any boundaries, you
Yeah.
know. And the thing is that you just think of it like you've got this beautiful
Yeah.
protective veil of energy
Yes.
around you, and then that cannot be penetrated by those who are not honest, that are there not for your best interest. And it's very important to be very aware of the people around you. I
Absolutely.
can say that.
As
Mm.
a matter of fact, another book that we're working on right away is 100 Shades of Dysfunction. And
Yeah,
you know, because
yeah,
you can't change something until you're aware that it's there, you know. And so there's different ways
exactly.
to do that. But so we're just about out of time, and I'm so grateful that this gracious person who has come into my life uh, is here with me today. This would have been very dreary talking on my own. Not really, because I can do that. I've done a lot
Yes.
of shows by
And you
myself,
like
but
yourself, so that's good.
yeah, you know, like I need to talk. I don't want a guest today. I want to just talk here. So I do that. I do that at least once a week.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah. So
But
Dr.
it's been
Verlaine, thank
fun. Thank you so much
Oh,
for this
you're
time.
welcome. We have a full house tomorrow. We have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven speakers coming on tomorrow.
Oh,
So you were graced with all this time to talk.
I know. I'm
Isn't
so,
that great?
so happy.
Yeah. All right. So if you've been watching, just thank you again, Dr. Verlaine, for being here. You're always such a joy. And we've been streaming live on E360 TV. So if you miss the shows, and this is not a good time for you to watch the shows, you can go into E360. All of our shows are archived in there. And you just search the Dr. Laurie Davis show, and all my shows will come up. I think there's about 175 of them right now. And also, we've been streaming live on Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars page and on our YouTube channel, Laurie Davis Show Host. So there's lots of places for people to go to watch the shows after the fact. And we're really grateful for that. So tomorrow, more of the Recovery Summit. And feel free to come back if you want. and join the crew that's going to be here. You're more than welcome. And we look forward to that show tomorrow. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. I really
All
appreciate
right.
you and all the work you're doing. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to get to sunny California, though.
Yeah.
I'm getting packed already. All right. So bye, everybody, and
Bye,
see you soon.
everybody.